But for most of us, it should break up. We should see a good deal of sunshine, always cooler along that eastern coast, but further out towards the west, it will be feeling pleasantly warm, highs of 21, 22, possibly 23 degrees. But with this onshore flow, always feeling cooler across the north and east. A bit of a change as we go through Monday. Any low cloud will eventually lift and break, but we'll see the return of some showers, especially across northern areas. But the detail is still quite uncertain at this stage. And then as we look through the week, many of us hold on to a good deal of sunshine, but again, the chance of some showers that could be on the heavy side and perhaps thundery.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you. Driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It has plenty of room for your family of four. Comes complete with kitchen, bathroom, and all the space you'll need for life on the road. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 9 p.m. I'm Ben Leo. Tonight,
it seemed like it was very important that we do the spicy stuff, because if we don't do the spicy stuff, it ends up like Chris Packham.
yes, the spicy stuff. It's only been a few weeks since Just Stop Oil announced they were disbanding, but a Ben Leo Tonight's investigation can exclusively reveal the eco-zealots are plotting a big comeback. We gained access to a secret meeting where climate campaigners pledged to restart their criminal behaviour and, chillingly, plan to undertake citizens' arrests of people who dare question the net zero agenda. Also tonight, another GB News exclusive. Reform UK is planning a Doge-style crackdown on wasteful council spending from next week by targeting almost £300 million that's been racked up across just 10 town halls. And talking of reform...
Lord President, white. The Lord Justice Clerk, white. Every High Court judge, white. The Lord Advocate, white.
Former Scottish First Minister Humza Yousaf once complained about there being too many white people, but he unironically takes aim tonight at Reform and Labour for apparently being racist. And does anyone remember this?
Those not in receipt of pension credit or certain other means-tested benefits will no longer receive the winter fuel payment from this year onwards. Let me be clear, this is not a decision I wanted to make.
Well, they're acting tough on migration this week, but is Labour's hated winter fuel policy about to get a U-turn too? And will the Prime Minister open the door to 80 million Europeans this Monday in what's being dubbed an EU surrender summit? Joining me on the panel tonight is journalist and communications advisor Linda Jubilee, the former Labour special advisor Paul Richards, and the senior reporter at Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley. And why do you reckon this chap took a dive into the sea when stopped by Border Force? Well, at least they're stopping one boat, I guess. Big show coming up, including the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, hot off the press. Good evening. Thank you for your company tonight. Now, I was getting pretty bored of their juvenile antics at the altar of climate change. They're vandals, threw soup over artworks in galleries. They defaced Stonehenge. They ambushed theatre plays in the West End and blocked traffic, scaled motorway gantries and doused private jets in paint and even disrupted sports events. Just Stop Oil, remember them? They said they were disbanding because their demand to end new oil and gas licences in Britain had been adopted as government policy. Their actions, of course, cost the public purse tens of millions of pounds in police and court time. Well, despite Ed Miliband bowing to their demands, I can exclusively reveal that Just Stop Oil are plotting a very big comeback regardless. Ben Leo tonight has gained access to secret Just Stop Oil meetings where members have been discussing a big U-turn with plans to cause absolute chaos across Britain by sabotaging Tesla vehicles, picketing petrol stations and arresting so-called climate criminals. Speaking during an online meeting on Thursday night this week, one coordinator, simply known as Dave, said protests should continue being action-based and warned against becoming peaceful activists such as Greenpeace.
Right, we had a fantastic breadth of range of people in our group. So I'll read out the main bits that I noted anyway. There was kind of it seemed like there's a lot of goodwill towards staying action-based, not becoming something more like Greenpeace or anyway doing stuff. Certain targeted things I think were liked very much. Things like Darwin's grave, citizens arrest, things like that, which seems very popular.
So the meeting continued with Dave insisting it was very important to keep doing the spicy and naughty stuff in a bid to secure media headlines.
It seemed like it was very important that we do the spicy stuff, because if we don't do the spicy stuff, it ends up like Chris Packham recently. He did this thing and he was saying he got no media attention in broadsheets at all. So effectively, to do protest stuff, you have to do naughty stuff.
Then, interestingly, the group discussed how they'd get protest ideas back to who they describe as a core team.
There was ideas about how do we get ideas back up to the core team, or whatever new thing will be the core team, and there was some frustration around that. Maybe figure out a good format, maybe like a 50-word brief. That's all you can do. So it's easy for the people in the core team to process.
It's interesting listening to that. I want to know just who the core team is. Who are these professional protesters reporting to, and who's paying them? Chillingly, the group then went on to say they'd carry out citizens' arrests on so-called climate deniers.
There will be a conversation going on. We had somebody who was involved in the Citizens Arrest Network. We were all extremely jealous of the stuff that they've been doing then. And also from then, the idea that they got a lot of good media, but they didn't get as much media as they thought they were. If they had managed to arrest bigger fish or maybe be more spicy, that would have made the difference.
Well, there was some introspection from the Just Stop Oil group when they questioned whether they needed to be so unpopular with the public.
JSO is radical, which is the least worst thing to do, was coming up. It's tricky though as we go along. Sometimes people run out of courage as they're caring for people and they're busy and their lives are going on as well. So a reset now and a bit of a rest might be just what's needed, and we can come back now. We had other people as well who were just wondering about, is direct action really needed? Do we really need to be so unpopular with the public? And in our second go around, there was quite a strong feeling that yes, it is needed. It's very much needed.
And the meeting came to an end when they concluded how they'd proceed with Just Stop Oil's revival, also talking about keeping protesters in safe houses in a bid to keep up morale.
They were just like, everyone agreed that we need to carry on with civil disobedience, direct action, and because it's the most effective thing to do. And there's the feeling that the camaraderie of the safe houses was a really good thing to building that kind of community.
Right, so what we have here is a group of climate zealots planning and plotting to commit criminal acts, funded by God knows who, and being put up in safe houses like some sort of organised mafia. And talking of organisation, the climate agenda is indeed an organised agenda with big money behind it. Who is paying to bust these protesters from London and Stonehenge to airports and art galleries and sports stadiums? Who's paying them to live in Just Stop Oil safe houses, where groups of scruffy do-gooders make meticulous plans to make Britain colder and poorer? The police and the government should be cracking down on Just Stop Oil's plans for criminality before they're able to get back off the ground again. The last thing Britain needs is more disruption and outright vandalism from eco-loons, especially when the Labour government is already happy to carry on the deranged march to net zero. We'll be passing our findings on to the police. Well, let's get the thoughts now of my panel, the journalist and communications advisor Linda Jubilee, the senior reporter at Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley, and the former Labour special advisor Paul Richards. Good evening, panel.
Good evening.
Welcome along. No Eurovision here, let me tell you that.
Good.
No breaking out into song. Ellie, let's start with you. Welcome along to the show. Your Ben Leo Tonight debut, I think, is it? Possibly?
I think I was on with you a couple of months ago.
Oh, there we go.
Yes,
well, let's pretend it is.
Yeah, we'll
pretend. What do you make of this? We infiltrated this meeting. They said they were hanging up their high-vis. Now they're planning more criminality.
Well, they clearly don't understand that not all publicity is good publicity, right? I mean, there's a reason they're so unpopular with these sort of protests, blocking ambulances from going across the road. I mean, in 2023, Met spent £20 million on these protests, and they're not popular anymore. Over the last sort of decade, the climate change thing sort of became a new religion, as it were, something for people to fight for, and often backed by celebs, usually ones that take private jets, like Emma Thompson and all the rest of it. Yeah. But now they're just not, this sort of protesting and criminal action damages their message, which they obviously have, accepted in some ways. But still, not enough to think we can stop. We're going to carry on doing this. It's unbelievable, really.
Yeah, quite right. Linda, should Just Stop Oil and whatever name they give themselves on their comeback, should they be classed as domestic terrorists?
I think that might be going a step too far. But the fact of the matter is, we have to accept that they're not going to stop. I mean, these people have an almost evangelical belief in what they're doing, and although they've had some serious reprimands in terms of prison sentences, I believe, recently, they are going to carry on. I mean, why wouldn't they? They believe in what they're doing, and actually the point of a protest is to cause massive inconvenience. So they are just going to have to calibrate what they're doing. I'm not saying I advocate this, but they are probably going to calibrate what they're doing by carrying on with protests which they believe may not cause the public such disruption. I can't really understand why they are kicking up a fuss about Tesla cars, though. I know that they hate Elon Musk, but the fact of the matter is electric cars, surely.
Who knows? Nothing they do makes sense. I mean, quite frankly, they're a bunch of nutters. Paul, what do you make of... I mean, quite chillingly, it's been revealed in this meeting, they're going to start carrying out citizens' arrests on what they call climate deniers. I mean, that's quite chilling in my book.
Well, they're not going to get very far legally with that, are they? Because that's obviously not what citizens' arrest is for. I mean, any observer of the ultra-left would tell you that they would immediately split into sort of an ultra faction and a moderate faction. That happens in all these different movements. So there was, this idea they were hanging up their boots and going mainstream and we've won and all that was plainly nonsense. There was always going to be a faction that wants to carry on smashing stuff up, and the reason is that they're narcissists. I mean, Ellie's used the word religious, and you said it's like a sort of an evangelical. It is like a religious cult, and the people within it, for them, the protest is the end result. The cause is no longer relevant.
They are being emboldened, I'd argue, by people such as Ed Miliband, who, I mean, Just Stop Oil quit last time, a few weeks ago, because they said that the government had pledged to no new oil and gas licences.
But that was plainly nonsense. I mean, that was just smoke and mirrors, wasn't it? And I think what this tape reveals, and I bet you that you guys are not the only people taping their meetings. The security services are keeping tabs on them too, because they knew that was.
Oh yeah,
I'm
sure that's happening.
I want my money to be spent on that if that is the case, because they are disrupting the economy and they do stop people going about their business, and they have nothing to do with the Labour government.
The security service would absolutely have to be monitoring this organisation.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I think they've got their hands full, Ellie, with jihadis and Islamists and whoever else.
Well,
I mean, I know for a fact that counter-terror teams all across the country are stretched. I'm not sure Just Stop Oil will probably take a list of priorities.
No, I think they do, actually, because, whenever there are protests in all forms, you do see the police out on the street making sure there's not a huge amount of disruption. But when they so-called hung up their high-vis a couple of weeks ago, they did mention the fact that they wanted their protesters to stop getting arrested. So effectively the measures that the Tories brought in sort of helped prevent these sort of protests. But I think you're totally right that there's always a spectrum within these groups. You have the extremists and you have the less extreme, and I think those extremists will carry on regardless.
But I think it's not just counter-terrorism, it's also intelligence. The fact of the matter is, I'd be amazed if some of the key people in these groups were not on watch lists.
Well, Roger Hallam, who from Extinction Rebellion, he's currently serving prison time, so he's inside.
Obviously.
I mean, I want to know who's funding these people. I know who funds the previous version of Just Stop Oil. It's the Climate Emergency Fund in LA. One of the massive donors is an heiress of John Getty, the oil baron, who made tens of billions. And isn't it ironic that the heiress of an oil dynasty with billions and billions under their control are now funding Just Stop Oil? Very bizarre.
Can I just say as well, what you've got to watch for is that Just Stop Oil activists or protesters don't start infiltrating local political groups like residents' groups or residents' association, and they don't start to turn their march that way, inwards. That, I'm sure, has happened.
It's called entrism, isn't it, where the extremists will join the mainstream.
That's absolutely
to
right.
Skew it. The thing I would say, though, young people getting involved need to know that they may end up with a prison sentence.
Well,
so, these guys that you've taped are, seducing young people into this kind of activity.
That young girl who threw soup over the Van Gogh painting. She got to...
nicely timed.
I think one of them got 20 months, the other one got 2 years.
I mean, that is tragic, really, isn't it?
It is. But, hilariously, YouGov did a poll amongst those people who thought that the government wasn't doing enough to fight climate change, and 58% agreed that they should have those sort of sentences, and a quarter of them thought that actually the judge was too lenient. So, they are not...
It's a young life ruined, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
who has persuaded that person to do that?
Yeah, and, when you're young, you are very malleable and easy influence. So
there was a poll in 2022, a YouGov poll, showing that 58% of UK adults supported Just Stop Oil and their bid to stop new oil and gas. I mean, it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, I guarantee...
I don't believe
not anymore,
I guarantee you in the area where I live, Just Stop Oil certainly has a component in some organisations and some associations. I absolutely guarantee you.
Ellie, you also mentioned that the police spent, was it 20 million on these protests?
Yeah. Well, yes.
I'd argue they were there to protect Just Stop Oil, not to police the criminality and the disruption that Just Stop Oil were carrying out. I mean, how many times have we seen drivers who are completely annoyed at the road being blocked getting penalised and arrested for getting irate at people sitting in the road? The police were there to help Just Stop Oil.
Well, I don't know if they were there to help Just Stop Oil, but they're obviously there to make sure that no violence broke out. And again, I really do think that since 2022 and 23, the sentiment has changed. They are not... so popular that people they're saying now that actually people blocking roads and stopping people from going to hospitals via ambulances
that is
not
terrible.
on, and it's terrible. And so they are these sort of protests are damaging their message, and they have done so.
Well, look, we infiltrated that meeting this week. We're going to be passing on the recordings to the authorities because, as far as I'm concerned, they're just plotting criminality. And if it was anybody else, if it was somebody planning to or plotting to, I don't know, do a cannabis grow or sell drugs or, I don't know, anything, then they'd be nicked for it, quite rightly, for conspiracy. So why are eco-protesters and campaigners immune? In March, when Just Stop Oil, or the end of April, March time, announced they were stepping down, they released a statement outside, I think it was Parliament. Supporters of the group announced that after 3 years of disruptive protests, they would be ending their campaign. The group's Hannah Hunt, whose speech on Valentine's Day 2022 marks the beginning of the campaign, made an announcement outside Downing Street. Well, she said, 3 years after bursting on the scene in a blaze of orange, at the end of April, the Just Stop Oil campaign will be hanging up the high vis. Just Stop Oil's demand to end new oil and gas is now government policy, making us one of the most successful civil resistance campaigns in recent history. GB News did contact Just Stop Oil tonight, and we are awaiting a response. Right, time now for the Great British Giveaway. Your chance to win the 4-berth motorhome. It's still up for grabs. It's worth £67,000, and we're chucking in £5,000 in tax-free cash on top to spend how you like. Make sure you don't miss out. Here's all the details you need to win.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you, driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. It has plenty of room for your family of 4, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom, and all the space you'll need for life on the road. And the best news? You can drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Don't delay. You can't win if you're not in the draw. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Up next, after the local elections, we saw Keir Starmer, didn't we? The Prime Minister banging on about immigration 16 or 17 times in just 2 weeks on X, talking about how he's going to be getting tough. Are we about to see another U-turn from the Prime Minister, this time on the winter fuel allowance? A big story breaking in The Sun tomorrow. We'll have all the details in just a tick. This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dawdney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. Now, Sir Keir Starmer's reportedly drawing up plans for a U-turn on winter fuel payments. Who'd have guessed? After the policy was blamed for the government's bruising local election losses. Options on the table include raising the means-tested threshold or scrapping means testing altogether so eligible pensioners can claim the cash as before. Speaking at the European Summit of Leaders in Albania, the Prime Minister did not deny that a change was being considered, instead insisting that, quote, difficult decisions, that phrase again, had to be taken. Well, joining me now is the former Labour MP and Labour peer, Lord John Mann. Good evening, Lord Mann. Thank you for your company. Let me just show you a breaking story from the Sun newspaper tonight. It's in the Sun on Sunday tomorrow. The U-turn for the winter fuel allowance apparently is weeks away. Senior Whitehall sources saying the decision to slash winter fuel payments for all but the poorest pensioners had absolutely bombed on the doorstep. I mean, I don't think you need senior Whitehall sources to tell you that. But, Lord Mann, what's your thoughts on that?
I hope this is correct. I think it's not just that the voters didn't like it. Some of us didn't like it. It didn't seem fair. I don't think we've got. There's nothing wrong with parliamentarians, MPs, and lords and ladies having to pay and not getting the winter fuel. Taking it off people like me. When I'm a pensioner, that's not a problem. But it's hitting people, working people, who've worked all their lives and got a workplace pension, like a miners' pension scheme and other industrial pension schemes, often negotiated by their unions. They've paid into it, and then they don't get the money, and people hate the principle of that. So nothing wrong with listening to the voters. This would be a sensible U-turn, and I hope the Sun on Sunday's got it right.
Let me just show you this Sun headline breaking tonight. Wouldn't it, Lord Mann, just appear weak? I mean, you can give credit on one hand for U-turning and saying you're listening to the people, but you've U-turned on migration, you've changed up the rhetoric, you're taking inspiration from Reform and Nigel Farage, who you've been mocking for the past week, saying that they couldn't fit their entire party into the back of a taxi, and then they U-turn on the winter fuel allowance. I mean, it's just recession and U-turn after U-turn.
I'm quite happy to cross swords with Nigel Farage and people like that, but I've not been mocking him.
No, but Labour have. Wes Streeting has. The Prime Minister has, most importantly, at the dispatch box.
I've been saying, and a number of others have, including MPs, not least from the Red Wall, for a considerable period of time, that this policy was wrong and needed to change. And what I'd call the loyal MPs have been saying it. They've not been saying it out loud to the media, but they've been saying it ferociously internally. Some brave people have said it more publicly.
Well, I think your better half, Jo White, had last week. She spoke, was it The Telegraph? She wrote a column begging Keir Starmer and senior Labour types to come to their constituencies in the Red Wall and speak to voters.
The word would be advising, and listening to good MPs like that would be a very wise thing for Keir Starmer and the rest of the Labour front bench.
OK, let me bring my panel in. Former Labour man Paul Richards is here. Paul, you got a question for Lord Mann?
Hello, John. You are recognised as a great Labour strategist. I just wonder whether you think that the danger with U-turning is it will hand all the power to Farage and he'll just come out and say, look, I'm secretly running the government.
Well, I'm sure he will say that it's a victory for him, but I'll say it's a victory for people like me who've argued it. The MP for Bicester will be able to claim credit, as will the Red Wall Group, a growing group of Labour MPs and others. But, that's politics. In the real world, if people who've worked all their lives, let's say coal miners, who've paid into a pension scheme and have lost this money, get it back, in 4 or 5 years, they'll not be moaning about it, obviously. It will be good politics, good economics. It should be done. And it will mean there is some listening. And, politicians, when they get it wrong, need to listen to the voters. Labour's had a good kicking from reform. Well, start listening, not just on this issue, but it's a very good one to make a move on.
OK, Lord Mann, Linda Jubilee and Ellie Wheatley are here as well. Linda, do you want to ask a quick question?
So, Lord Mann, I just want to know, as Paul says, you are a great strategist for the Labour Party. Why is the Labour Party so reactive? Why does it not develop the kind of strategy it wants before it acts? And why does it continue to act and then change what it's done? That strikes me as counterintuitive.
And I'd agree with you. By the way, I'm not a great strategist for the Labour Party. If they'd have been listening to me, they wouldn't have done this in the first place. So perhaps they ought to be listening a little bit more to people who not just don't live in London, but never want to live in London, who live in the North or the Midlands, who like to do so, and are in touch with all our neighbours and friends. It's my neighbours and friends who don't like this. I don't like it. So it'd be popular if we do it. But actually, I want it changing because it's wrong. We shouldn't have done it. And it would be a smart thing to do. I hope it does happen. But no, if there'd have been strategists who've been listening and thinking, it wouldn't have happened in the first place.
OK, Lord Mann, top Guido Fawkes reporter Ellie Wheatley has a quick question before we pop to the break.
Yes. Do you think that if they do U-turn on this policy, it would leave Rachel Reeves in a sort of a much weaker position? Because she's reportedly furious about the original briefings that they were thinking of a U-turn last couple of weeks ago by The Guardian. And some Labour insiders have said that she wouldn't withstand a U-turn on the policy. Is this a massive blow to Rachel Reeves?
Well, I'd hope she'd be listening in as well. She represents a northern constituency, so I'm pretty sure that, and I know people who live in her constituency. I was brought up in it. I'm sure she's listening as well. I'd be surprised if she wasn't in the middle of this decision. And yeah, of course, any U-turn's a little bit of a loss of face. Of course it is. Far better to have the strength of U-turning than carrying on regardless.
Lord Mann, thank you very much for your company tonight. Just very quickly, maybe just a brief answer because we're pushed for time, but do you feel sad that what the Labour Party have become in their first 10 months of power? Do you recognise your Labour Party?
I'm irritated by it. Not good enough. And not getting the messaging right. But it's more than that. Some of the policies need to be improved. We need to do a lot better. If we do, I think a reset is very possible. If we don't, the voters will keep kicking us. Can't blame them if we get it wrong, can you?
Yeah, indeed. You've got some time. I just wonder, though, whether that trust can be won back. But, Lord Mann, thank you very much for your...
Yes, it can. But keep doing sensible things.
Yeah, good man. Thank you, Lord Mann. Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your weekend. Right, coming up, former First Minister of Scotland, Humza Yousaf, launches an attack on Labour's new immigration stance and, indeed, Reform UK. Is he right to accuse Sir Keir Starmer of echoing far-right language? By the way, this is the man who, and we'll play the clip after the break, stood in the Scottish Parliament banging on about how many white people there were in top jobs in Scotland. Ironic? This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine? Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
After some very heavy downpours recently, it's turning drier over the central Mediterranean. We are going to see some heavy showers developing into next week over the Pyrenees and southern France. Turning a bit cloudier over the Algarve as this zone of rain moves in later on Sunday, but that rain will be fizzling out as it does so. The heavy showers easing off over Italy and parts of Croatia. Plenty of fine and sunny weather over the Greek islands and much of southern Turkey. We will see those heavy downpours developing, though, in Nice by Monday and Tuesday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, some of that low cloud has been stubborn to clear today, but we'll see the return of low cloud from the North Sea as we go overnight, followed by sunny spells into Sunday. So taking a look at the bigger picture, we're still under the influence of this area of high pressure, drawing in though northeasterly winds. So a lot of low cloud coming in from the North Sea, and this will eventually push its way further inland across much of central parts of England down towards the south and east. Further out towards the west, that's where we'll hold on to the clearest skies, a touch of frost in places, but also some mist and fog to start Sunday morning. So as we start Sunday morning then, a bit of a gloomy picture out there, especially across eastern areas and also across northern parts of Scotland. Out towards the west though, a fine and bright start, plenty of sunshine. Similar picture across Northern Ireland, many places waking up to plenty of blue sky, but always holding on to this low cloud across northeastern England, East Midlands, down towards the south and east. And it could be quite slow to clear, especially across parts of the East Midlands and towards the southeast as we go through the morning and into the afternoon. But for most of us, it should break up. We should see a good deal of sunshine, always cooler along that eastern coast, but further out towards the west, it will be feeling pleasantly warm, highs of 21, 22, possibly 23 degrees, but with this onshore flow, always feeling cooler across the north and east. A bit of a change as we go through Monday. Any low cloud will eventually lift and break, but we'll see the return of some showers, especially across northern areas, but the detail is still quite uncertain at this stage. And then as we look through the week, many of us hold on to a good deal of sunshine, but again, the chance of some showers that could be on the heavy side and perhaps thundery.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point.
He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. Now, Scotland's First Minister Humza Yousaf has launched an attack on Labour's new immigration stance, accusing the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, of echoing the language of the far right. Yousaf condemned Starmer's warning that Britain risks becoming an island of strangers, calling it a dangerous echo of Enoch Powell's and a clear attempt to mirror Nigel Farage's Reform Party. He also warns that the rhetoric not only undermines essential migrant workers, but also risks pushing Britain further into division and decline. And he reflected on his own family's immigrant roots, saying policies like these would have barred his own father and Anna Sarwars from entering the UK. Well, joining me now is the former SNP defence spokesman and political commentator, Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Crawford. Good evening to you. Thank you for joining me, Stuart. What do you make of this? It makes me laugh, actually, that Humza Yousaf, a man... Let's remind ourselves what he did. He stood in Holyrood banging on about white people and how there were too many of them, and now he comes out talking about division and rhetoric. Let's remind ourselves of that moment.
Lord President, white. The Lord Justice Clerk, white. Every High Court judge,
white. The Lord Advocate, white.
OK. Can we take anything Humza Yousaf says seriously off the back of that?
Good evening, Ben. Well, the answer is, and I'm not going to do an ad hominem attack on Humza Yousaf, but I should just say that his political credibility has been stretched to breaking point, and some people would say beyond that, by his poor performance as First Minister in Scotland. However, he is entitled to express his opinion, and I think there's a certain element of truth in what he has said. The problem with so-called, real actually, illegal immigration and migration into the UK is not the same in Scotland. It doesn't have the same impact up here because fewer of the people who are seeking political asylum or coming across the Channel are interested in coming to Scotland, and that's a completely different topic. Why that should be the case, but succeeding Scottish politicians from Alex Salmond onwards have said that everybody's welcome to come to Scotland because Scotland's not full up yet, and that's absolutely true. I think the interesting thing that Humza Yousaf has avoided mentioning is the fact that much of the SNP's anti-immigrant rhetoric, which is an undercurrent, is directed against English people who come and live up here. And so he's being slightly hypocritical.
Yes. What do you make of new polling showing reform is on the rise in Scotland? A Survation poll on behalf of the True North and advisers has the SNP on 32% of the vote, ahead of Reform on 21%. Who would have ever predicted that? What's going on there?
Well, that's a really interesting question. And I have to say that up until about 18 months ago, I would have said that Reform UK, Nigel Farage's party, to all intents and purposes, was very much seen as an English party and that it wouldn't have little traction in Scotland. But I've been proved completely wrong. And there is a very strong surge in support for Reform UK north of the border. And it has all the other political parties panicking slightly. And because we have the Holyrood elections for the Scottish Parliament, which take place this time next year, because that's under proportional representation voting rules, there's a very distinct possibility that Reform UK will do extremely well and return a number of members of the Scottish Parliament. And it has everybody else panicking.
Doesn't that kind of blow apart people like Humza Yousaf's conclusion that Reform are somehow far right? Because Reform, as far as I can tell, aren't just cleaning up old disaffected Tories, they're also cleaning up predominantly a lot of the left, which is why Labour have such a problem. They're not just... I mean, Labour are trying to stave off the far left, and they're also trying to stave off losing far left voters, and also their traditional Labour voters, the Red Wall. So do you agree that Reform are somehow far right? Because I just think they're left, right, centrist. I think they're possibly, arguably, the party of just normal people.
Well, I think that's a very good point. I mean, I think that if you look at their political stance, you'd have to say that Reform is probably to the right of centre, but it has a huge appeal across all sections of society. And although I'm not directly involved in politics anymore, or indeed working on the factory floor, if you want to put it that way, my friends who are still involved and who do run factories say that the number one topic in the Scottish workplace is not independence, it's not the NHS, it's immigration. And Reform has tapped into that in the same way, in many ways, that Trump has tapped into disaffected Middle America. And so I think they're going to make a significant impact in Scottish politics and in UK politics. And you're quite right that it's not right, centre or left, it's across the spectrum.
Indeed. Lieutenant Colonel Stuart Crawford, thank you so much for being with me this afternoon, or this evening rather. Have a good weekend. Catch up with you soon. Let's get the thoughts of my panel now. Lynn Jubilee, Paul Richards, Eddie Wheatley, welcome back. Paul Richards, Scotland hasn't been blessed with leaders of particular calibre, have they, in recent years? The likes of Nicola Sturgeon, Humza Yousaf, who, for me, Humza Yousaf, on a serious point, you know, what a complete joke. What a joke of a man.
Useless.
Yeah, I mean, the SNP did not do themselves any favours, do they, with their choice of leader and the scandals that hang over them. I'm not sure that Reform UK is the answer, though. I mean, in England, we had elections 2 weeks ago, and a load of them were elected as councillors. 23 of them have already had to resign, triggering by-elections. So the same would happen in Scotland if they were elected there. People seem to stand, not understand what the job is, and have to
some didn't know the rules. Some had jobs already, which they didn't declare.
I mean, that's quite a big chunk of the block that people were celebrating.
Well, how many councillors did they win?
They got 600.
677, I think, which is actually a lot more than they
and
ever
23 of them have had to trigger by-elections.
Well, that's not a lot. What's the percentage
Each
of that?
by-election costs taxpayers quite a lot of dough, though.
I'm
so they're
sure,
already
I'm sure
racking it up. So much for Doge. They're costing money.
Well, yeah, good point. So talking of Doge, so Reform, Ellie, have said that they next week will identify £300 million worth of local authority waste that they can target across the 10 councils that they control. Do you trust them to do that?
Well, I mean, they have to sort of rip apart everything and start again. A lot of these contracts are already committed to being fulfilled for the next few years. I mean, obviously, at Guido, we do our UK Doge. We always look into these sort of things. How many potholes could you fill?
What's the worst you've seen?
Officer? Oh, gosh. Well, a lot of them are quangos, for example. So we've got the the environmental agency spending thousands of pounds on making their image better, just to
their logo.
Public. Yeah, to how to appeal to the public more. Because actually they're doing quite a terrible job.
Well, that's an argument against quangos, isn't it? Which we all sign up to.
I mean, there's lots of different contracts.
Can I just ask for your opinion, because you've obviously got your ear to the ground, but everybody knows that where local authorities are concerned, the two big areas of expenditure are special needs and social care. They are a massive part of their budgets. Whether you put a Union Jack flag in the corner of the office or not,
no, but Linda,
does not
but
affect
it all
that.
adds up, though. The classic adage: you look after the pennies and the pounds look after themselves. And actually, when you do see these ridiculous projects being, thousands of taxpayers,
you can save some money, but when you see the tsunami of chaos and trouble that is coming towards
it would be interesting
because of social care, with an ageing population.
I totally agree with you. It'd be really interesting to see how Reform deal with these councils, because they Labour and the Tories will be picking on every little sign of any mismanagement, and if they can say, look, we have saved X thousand pounds across our councils, we have been able to fix the roads, fill the potholes, etc. That's a sort of look ahead of what our government could potentially do. If they fail at that, then it's just going to be used as an example of how
I'm just suggesting that big areas like social care, which are going to get hammering when visas are more restricted, that's really chaotic.
Absolutely, but then again, what they would probably do, what the Reform Party will probably say, is that that's not our fault, that's government policy. If you chose us, we'd maybe, if we were running the government, we'd maybe be able to, because a lot of these things in the council, how the councils run are often governmental policies that actually you can't do as a council.
You can't implement on the ground.
No, you can't.
Yeah. And I take your
point to the government.
I take your point on that. Maybe it won't touch the sides, £300 million, but does that mean you shouldn't bother in the first place?
No, it definitely means you do need to bother. I'm simply questioning how much difference that would make when we know what the two big areas of expenditure are.
I mean, I think they were elected on a false prospectus, because they were promising to do all this stuff. They've got into office now. Like I say, several of them have resigned when they've realised the job, but a lot of the ones that remained...
Labour can talk, getting elected on a false prospectus.
But they're going to be
smash
held...
the gangs.
They are going to be...
How can you say that?
They're going to be held to a very different standard.
GBNews has smashed more gangs than Labour Party.
But now they are running councils. They're going to be held to a different standard, aren't they? They are now running Kent, right? So they're going to be held to a very different standard.
They're not elected on a false premise. Because the fact is, we live in a democracy, and if you listen to what Lieutenant Crawford said, Stuart Crawford said, Reform is actually listening to what people are saying and voting accordingly. Now, you can't criticise that if you live in a democracy.
That's two different things.
I don't think it is.
It's about delivery.
Just before we go, Reform have highlighted in Northamptonshire Council forking out £1.1 million a year, for a 4-year contract to hand out free vapes to council workers who want to quit smoking. Why should council taxpayers be paying for council staff to stop smoking? Have a laugh. Right, coming up, 2 firefighters and a member of the public tragically lost their lives following that blaze at an RAF base in Bicester. We'll speak to one of the locals who saw it unfold next. This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
Hi, I'm I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
Recently, Meghan Markle did a cookery show.
She did.
What happened? Because you made a certain comment and she...
I was asked by a national newspaper to basically review the show, what I thought from a chef's perspective. So I did, and really the opinions came across quite strong.
What kind of things did you say? Can you say?
Well, I didn't think it was a great show, to be honest with you. I felt that it was a bit forced and fake and stuff, which I've been on this show on GB News and explained that before. But I think the problems with Meghan was that Netflix are looking for things to do with her. She's not going to be racing cars, and she's not going to be doing this, and she's not going to be doing that. So I think they've kind of thrown her into the whole kind of cookery thing. Make a nice show about it and, try and recoup some money.
And in it, there was a potential that you may have said that she didn't appear to be a great chef, or she might not be able to cook, or...
Well, my understanding...
Recount what you can say, and then we don't want you to get in trouble.
No, I think that, again, I go back to what I just said then. I think they've kind of thrown her into something. They thought to themselves what they're going to do with Meghan next. And basically, they've kind of thought, well, most people can cook. Let's create a cookery show. Let's make her the new Martha Stewart. Let's try and recoup some money. Let's do, I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to bring out pans and knives and tea towels as well as what she's already launched already. And I think it's, from a chef's perspective, it's very disappointing that streaming sites are, backing people who have got really no experience in the industry and don't really have the right to be teaching people how to cook.
Well, she did make a really nice sort of like fruit rainbow, where she put all the fruit in a thing, in one on the other. And...
That must have been episode 1, because I stopped after episode 1.
No, do you?
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo Tonight. Now, before we head into the news hour where the papers drop, I wanted to pay tribute to the 2 firefighters and indeed a member of the public who died following the blaze at an RAF base in Bicester yesterday. They've been named by police today. They were identified as Jenny Logan, aged 30, and Martin Sadler, 38, who both worked for the Oxfordshire County Council Fire and Rescue Service. For the 57-year-old construction businessman David Chester was also named as the member of the public who sadly died. The fire took place on Thursday evening. Joining me now is the chair of Bicester Rugby Club, Paul Jaggers, who has more detail on this. Paul, thanks for joining us. I'm sorry to be talking to you under these circumstances and hear of the devastating fire that's ravaged your community. Just explain to me, please, when you first heard about it, what you saw and how Bicester's feeling at the moment.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me on tonight. We first became aware of the fire on Thursday evening. I believe fire crews were called out about 6:39 that evening. And ironically, it was actually our Bicester Rugby Club AGM on Thursday evening when I was elected in as chair. And this was obviously going on in the background. We only became aware of how serious the situation was on Friday morning. And we were notified that 2 firefighters had been killed. and they were both members of Bicester Rugby Club.
Ah, mate, so they both played rugby. They were members of your rugby club. Just tell us, please, what Jenny and Martin were like. What were they like as teammates, as friends?
Naturally, I mean, fantastic individuals. We're a very close-knit community as a club and a very close family, and obviously very affected by this. Jenny joined the club in 2021, and from her first session, she showed her determination as a rugby player, always on people's shoulders, really getting stuck in, dedicated, driven, but more importantly, part of the team. She was so much more than just a performance on the pitch. She was a kind, gentle, and thoughtful force to be reckoned with. And she really wanted the best from the women's game and the place of women more widely in the community. Martin, part of the club for 20 odd years. I had the pleasure of playing alongside him in my playing days. As you'll see from the photos, that infectious smile was the thing that I'll always remember Martin for. He brought that energy, that positivity into every room, every pitch that he stepped onto. A total rugby man. If the opposition turned up without enough players, he'd quite happily don an opposition jersey just to get the game of rugby on. And actually, when he hung up his boots from playing, he actually joined the Bicester, the Vixens team as their first aider as well. Yeah, part of that lady setup as well.
Such a shame, isn't it? And it just underlines, Paul, firefighters, they go into battle day in, day out, and we don't think anything of it. I can't remember the last time I consciously sat and thought about the brave firemen and women who serve each day. And until something like this happens, and it shocks you to the core, you don't expect firefighters to die in the line of duty, but of course they do. And, you've lost two teammates, you've lost two friends, and still so young. Jenny, who's 30, 57 as well, was Martin. Still pretty young in the grand scheme of things, and the fire service has lost two incredible workers. And indeed, David Chester, the member of the public. What are you going to be doing to sort of commemorate them and remember them at the club?
Well, there have been a few unofficial gatherings over the last sort of 24 hours. A few folks met in the clubhouse last night for a couple of drinks. I know there was some meeting today as well to raise a glass. We've actually got our end of season minis and juniors presentation tomorrow. So we will naturally honour them with a minute's silence tomorrow. But then we do want to, as I'm sure they will want to celebrate the end of the season with the youngsters as well, and do that in their honour and memory tomorrow. But over time, there'll be plenty of opportunity to remember them and celebrate their lives.
Paul, thank you for sharing your comments this evening and your memories of your two teammates, Jenny, Martin, and there on the right-hand side, the member of the public who also died, the construction businessman David Chester. Thank you, Paul, so much, and sending love to you and the rugby club and all your teammates and friends down in Bicester. Let's get quick thoughts from my panel. Linda, Paul, Ellie. Linda, as I said, we forget firefighters day in, day out, and even coppers, policemen.
It's so sad. I did about 18 months' work of media awareness with the emergency services, including the fire service, and they all discuss all the time death in service. It's something that is never far from their minds. We forget about it, but they never do. And I saw stuff on Facebook with the guys and LinkedIn today for the guys I work with, and they're all devastated. It doesn't matter what fire service they work for, they are all devastated.
Paul?
These are the people who will run towards danger, will go into the burning building, who cut people out of road traffic accidents, and they are doing an amazing job, sometimes paying the ultimate price, but it is worth remembering them because we all rely on them every day.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention them tonight, Ellie, because I think it was appropriate.
Totally correct to pay our respects, and very brave of all to talk about it as well. But absolutely, as you say, we forget how brave these men and women are, and they're protecting us. And obviously, they did rescue people, and they managed to evacuate a lot of people who were on the site as well. So, yeah, absolutely thoughts and prayers go to them.
Yeah, and wasn't Paul an eloquent guy as well?
Yeah,
he remembered his friends there so eloquently and fondly. So well done, Paul, for doing that. Right, coming up, the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, there are some big stories, including, do you remember this David Lammy one from Friday, where he had a row with a taxi driver? On the Sun on Sunday front page tomorrow, there has been a big development. It's going to make you laugh, so stay tuned for that, plus the rest of the papers. Back in just a tick. Ben Leo tonight, only on GB News.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, some of that low cloud has been stubborn to clear today, but we'll see the return of low cloud from the North Sea as we go overnight, followed by sunny spells into Sunday. So taking a look at the bigger picture, we're still under the influence of this area of high pressure, drawing in though northeasterly winds. So a lot of low cloud coming in from the North Sea, and this will eventually push its way further inland across much of central parts of England down towards the south and east. Further out towards the west, that's where we'll hold on to the clearest skies, a touch of frost in places, but also some mist and fog to start Sunday morning. So as we start Sunday morning then, a bit of a gloomy picture out there, especially across eastern areas and also across northern parts of Scotland. Out towards the west though, a fine and bright start, plenty of sunshine. Similar picture across Northern Ireland, many places waking up to plenty of blue sky, but always holding on to this low cloud across northeastern England, East Midlands, down towards the south and east. And it could be quite slow to clear, especially across parts of the East Midlands and towards the southeast as we go through the morning and into the afternoon. But for most of us, it should break up. We should see a good deal of sunshine, always cooler along that eastern coast, but further out towards the west, it will be feeling pleasantly warm, highs of 21, 22, possibly 23 degrees, but with this onshore flow, always feeling cooler across the north and east. A bit of a change as we go through Monday. Any low cloud will eventually lift and break, but we'll see the return of some showers, especially across northern areas, but the detail is still quite uncertain at this stage. And then as we look through the week, many of us hold on to a good deal of sunshine, but again, the chance of some showers that could be on the heavy side and perhaps thundery.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
What does it feel like to be a Great British Giveaway winner?
That's a big surprise.
Oh my God, I'm going to cry.
Do you know what? I've never won anything like this in my life.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
That is absolutely fantastic.
We're over the moon.
Yes, that is fantastic.
You know, you have no idea how much I needed it. Oh my goodness.
That's wonderful. Oh, thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I was gobsmacked. Thank you, GB News.
I'd say don't hesitate, do it. If you're not in it, you've got no chance of winning it. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
You really could be our next big winner. Head over to gbnews.com/win now to find out how and get your entry for the Great British Giveaway. Great prizes, even greater wins.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because the failure is... You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
It's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 10 p.m. I'm Ben Leo, and breaking tonight, bombshell claims, and that's an understatement, in The Sun tonight from the taxi driver who chauffeured the Foreign Secretary David Lammy. He says David Lammy was carrying a gun. That's right, a gun in the explosive row. Nassim Minham told the paper, "I was scared because I knew he had a gun on him." Sources of Mr. Lammy, of course, completely deny the allegations, but this furious row is causing further embarrassment for the Foreign Secretary and indeed the government. We'll bring you all the latest juicy details in just a second. Elsewhere, it's a Brexit betrayal. That's what many of tomorrow's front pages are saying. The Daily Express leads with "Betray Britain at your peril." Starmer facing wrath of voters if he surrenders to the EU, Farage warns also. In the Sunday Telegraph, Ed Miliband considers fewer electricity pylons amid net zero backlash, as cutting back on cables and a switch to regional pricing systems could save tens of billions of pounds. Joining me this evening on the panel is the journalist and communications advisor Linda Jubilee, the former Labour Special Advisor Paul Richards, and the senior reporter at Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley. And, by the way, why do you reckon this chap took a dive into the sea when stopped by Border Force? Tomorrow's front pages and all the juicy stories, including allegations David Lammy was carrying a gun, coming up next. Right, the front pages have just dropped, some of them at least. Anyway, let's start with The Independent. Let's check out the headlines. The headline reads, Starmer's Brexit reset worth £25 billion a year boost to the UK economy. The Independent has revealed the figures and also said that removing trade barriers on goods could result in a 2.2% uplift in GDP. Moving on to The Express. Betray Britain at your peril. Keir Starmer's facing the wrath of voters if he surrenders to the EU at this summit on Monday. That's according to Reform UK's Nigel Farage. Moving on to the Mail on Sunday. Brexit? What Brexit? And this kind of sums up the feeling of many Brexit voters, the 17.4 million who voted to leave the European Union. The Mail on Sunday says, on the eve of surrender summit, Starmer eyes deal to cosy up to Brussels with hundreds of millions of UK taxpayers' cash. The Sunday Telegraph, again, Brexit. Keir Starmer, EU reset is good for borders. And down the bottom there, former asylum seekers charged with spying for Iran. And also on the right-hand side, we just mentioned it, Ed Miliband may be forced to scale back the rollout of electricity pylons all over the country as they allegedly row back on net zero. Wow, some good stories. The David Lammy story is on the front page of The Sun. He's been accused of carrying a gun. As soon as we get that front page, it's coming imminently. We will share all the juicy details. I mean, the bizarre details, let's be frank. I don't think I believe the taxi driver, but let's hear what you think. And as soon as we get it, we'll discuss it with the panel. First, though, let's talk about, I guess, all of the front pages, the Brexit betrayal. Linda Jubilee, Ellie Wheatley and Paul Richards are back with me now. Paul Richards, Brexit betrayal on Monday. The Mail on Sunday is pretty damning. On the eve of surrender summit, Starmer eyes deal to cosy up to Brussels with hundreds of millions of UK taxpayers' cash. Brexit? What Brexit?
Well, you said yourself, on the front page of The Independent are surveys that show that it could be worth £25 billion to our economy to get some more trade. People that voted for Brexit didn't say we want to be poorer and our kids shouldn't be allowed to go and work in Europe. They wanted to take back control. But more trade is in everyone's interest, because that's the way we're going to fund our public services. And letting kids go and live abroad for a bit, go around Europe working, is also a good idea. So if you can come back with this deal, it's another feather in the cap for Starmer.
Yeah, we're talking about trade, but also taking back control. I mean, effectively, this sort of a dynamic realignment with the EU means that we become a rule taker. We are having to accept European court jurisdiction on products such including agri-foods. Basically, businesses will have to accept the EU's red tape, which is exactly what Brexit was all about, right?
But the red tape now is worse, though. That's the problem. All these businesses have gone out of business because they can't trade with Europe, because the red tape's even worse than it was.
Yeah, but also it's about focusing on being able to cut our own red tape, which apparently the Labour government's trying to work on. Absolutely agree with you that the Brexit hasn't gone the way that we had hoped, but the point is that we are able to cut ourselves off from the bloc and actually choose.
But isn't the real problem here is that it's all going round the back door route.
Totally, Trojan horse.
That's the Trojan horse. That's exactly right.
How is it a back door route when it's on the front page of every newspaper? It's on every single newspaper front page.
But that's the EU perfectly well. That's not what I'm saying.
For months, the government has said, nope, we are not exploring it. We're not exploring it. We're not deny, and then suddenly, boom. And you know, the day that Starmer talks about cracking down on migration and you know capping numbers, etc. This EU youth mobility scheme will allow tens of thousands of...
And we voted
millions
to leave.
Well,
we voted to leave.
Young people.
Tens of... Well, no, it's under 35s. I know I look young, I'm 35. I am not a youth. I don't think I should qualify for a youth mobility scheme. And by the way, Paul, it could be up to 150 million under 35 Europeans if the likes of North Macedonia, Albania, whoever the hell else countries join the EU bloc. And there's no cap. This is the key thing.
Yeah, no cap.
There is no cap.
Labour don't like a cap
but
because they know that they wouldn't be able to, you know, hit it.
This shouldn't be up for discussion at all. Never mind the nuts and bolts of the whole plan. The fact is, if you have a referendum and you make a decision, you make the decision work. Yeah. You don't suddenly turn round from it and say to people, well, it doesn't matter how you voted.
But this is making it work, isn't it? Because this is getting back to the trading basis of our relationship with Europe.
At what cost?
Well, a huge benefit to the economy, it would seem, if these figures on the front page of the Independent, Ben, you just read it out.
Well, yeah, some independent poll. I mean, this is like, it's like climate change modelling. It's like, oh, what's this going to be worth? I don't know, 30 billion quid? OK, sounds like a good idea.
I'll stick my finger in the wind if I could find it.
You're going to have up to... OK, let's be conservative and deal with the countries who are in the EU bloc at the moment. You're going to have 80 million up to people coming to the UK for 3 years, uncapped. Who knows when they're going to go home, how long they're going to stay. They can overstay quite easily. And we know that immigration doesn't equal strong economy. GDP per capita has been contracting for years on it, despite migration going completely out of control.
Young people going from this country abroad into Europe.
Why can't they do that anyway?
But some immigration...
Well, because they're not allowed under the new rules, are they? Because we're not in the EU, that's why.
Some immigration is perfectly acceptable. That's the whole point of this argument. Some immigration is not just acceptable, it's probably advisable. But we are not doing enough of the grind work to understand where that line is. And that's my objection to all these speeches with all these flowery phrases and all these cut-and-paste sound bites is who's doing the grunt work.
Yeah, indeed. OK, should we talk about... Have we got that Sun front page? Have we got it? OK, we've got some breaking news first. David Lammy with a gun is coming up. Stay tuned for that. I mean, this is the big one. But some breaking news coming in just now. A bomb has exploded near a reproductive health facility in Palm Springs, California. These are live pictures now if you're watching on television. If you're listening on the radio, we've got what appears to be drone or helicopter footage overhead at the facility. It's a health facility in Palm Springs. The bomb going off has resulted in the death of one person. Mayor Rhonda Hart told Reuters, the news agency, tonight, and the Palm Springs city government said in a Facebook post that an explosion occurred just before 11 a.m. local time. A statement said it's been identified as a bomb that was either in or near a car, said the mayor. So just to reiterate, a bomb has exploded near a reproductive health facility in Palm Springs, California, resulting in the death of one person.
It's an abortion clinic.
I was
about to say, can we clarify what a health facility is?
I think that's what it means.
Yeah.
Right.
It's an anti-abortionist bombing an abortion clinic, is what it would appear at this stage.
Yeah, and there are some evangelists in America which are against IVF treatment and all sorts of reproductive treatments.
And ironically willing to take a life.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we don't know, Paul, who's bombed what. I mean,
we don't know at this stage. It is speculation, that's right.
That's sad news in Palm Springs, California. Should we talk about this David Lammy story? I'm absolutely gagging to talk about it.
Oh, my heavens.
It's just brilliant. Right, so just as a recap, if you've been away this week and you don't know what's happened with this David Lammy taxi story, David Lammy was in France. He took a 6-hour, pretty much an Uber, to get back home to Bristol. I think he was going to an airport or a train station. Here's the story now breaking in The Sun tonight. So initially on Friday, there was a massive row because the taxi driver said David Lammy owed him £600 more than agreed. They released pictures in The Sun showing the absolute disarray of the back seat. There were sandwich wrappers and coffee cups and sugar sprinkled all over the place, making David Lammy look like an absolute scruff. The development tonight in The Sun on Sunday tomorrow is that this taxi driver, who, by the way, was arrested for theft because he drove off with just gets more bizarre, doesn't it? He drove off with David Lammy's luggage after the row, so he was arrested for theft, the taxi driver.
And there's a legal process going on between...
Yeah, so he's been nicked and it's being investigated. The story tomorrow, breaking, is that he has accused our Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, of carrying a gun in that row.
Well...
Which the Foreign Office, just to be clear before we start, I mean, I don't really need to read this, but the Foreign Office completely denies he was carrying a gun. But Paul Richards, what's your take? This is like a pantomime.
That's exactly right.
I think the taxi driver is a liar and a thief. And I think we should... I can't believe that journalists in this country have splashed it on the front page of a reputable newspaper.
Well, I mean, do you expect... What, you want them to censor the reporting?
Well, I think if anyone says anything about anybody, it's demonstrably untrue. You don't put it on the front page. And
we don't know it's untrue.
Do we think that the Foreign Secretary has a gun? Is that what you're suggesting? Because I'm pretty sure he does not.
Maybe he had security personnel.
He didn't.
He might have had... I don't know.
Just wouldn't have had a
gun. There was no gun.
You know, the fact of the matter is, it all is, like Ben said,
not very,
a little bit of a... It's not very edifying, any of this, is it? It's a bit of a pantomime.
Yeah, and by the way, the big... regardless of all this sort of trivial detail, I don't believe he had a gun. I mean, we don't know for sure. I don't. If I'm going to bet money on it, I'd say he didn't. But the big thing here is that why is David Lammy getting into Uber-style vehicles...
That's my point.
...as the Foreign Secretary?
Well, I think he was paying for it himself. I don't think it was taxpayers'
Well, where was
money.
the security? He's the Foreign Secretary.
Well, let me read you some detail, some colour from The Sun on Sunday. So this is in your local newsagents tomorrow. Shocking documents obtained by The Sun on Sunday reveal that Nassim Minham, who is the taxi driver, claimed to French officials that David Lammy was carrying a gun and that 2 cars were following them on the 360-mile journey. Prosecution files form the basis of a court hearing set for November after the taxi driver was charged with theft. They raise, according to The Sun on Sunday, the embarrassing prospect of Mr Lammy and his wife being called to France to give evidence.
Oh, dear God.
They refer to the Foreign Secretary by his full name, David Lyndon Lammy, and, include allegations made by the experienced VIP cabbie, Mr Minnan, that he was carrying a gun.
What is that? That's a contradiction in terms. A serious VIP cabbie?
I'm very confused by this whole thing. I mean, it obviously is not good for...
Well, the guy's
relations.
The guy's a fantasist, and now he's going to get banged up for theft. Right.
But the point is, what's David Lammy doing in the back of that cab, being driven by that man? Surely the Foreign Office should be able to hire a secure vehicle with security drivers. That's the way we normally transport our diplomats and our high-profile people. This whole story, from beginning to end, is a fiasco.
Yeah, totally. I think it's really embarrassing that our Foreign Secretary is representing the UK, you know, it's supposed to be...
It's bizarre.
With respect to our Foreign Secretary, he's not, Paul, the sharpest tool in the box, is he?
I don't think that's very fair. He's a Harvard scholar. I mean, he's quite a sharp
really?
guy.
I mean, did you see his not question time, mastermind appearance?
Yeah, that was unedifying, wasn't it? Mind you, would you do well on that? It's a hard show, I reckon.
We've got some pictures of the dirty taxi that allegedly David Lammy left. Do you know, even seeing these now, I don't really...
Yeah, you should see my car. I mean, I have to say, you know...
I mean, Trevor, it's 6 hours in the back of a car like that. I mean, really?
Come on.
But in any kind of large town, small city, anywhere where he was, to transport him to wherever he had to catch the flight, you should be able to hire a secure vehicle.
Yeah.
Foreign correspondents do that. Never mind the Foreign Secretary.
Yeah, well, he was going from a little town in Italy, I think, after the Pope's funeral, I think it was.
He was on private business, and he's saving the taxpayer money. He didn't have all the blues and twos. He was actually spending his own cash.
He's a foreign secretary. He needs to be secure.
Sources close to David Lammy have said tonight it's a completely absurd allegation I was carrying a gun. Of course he didn't have a gun. The allegation speaks more to the character of the taxi driver than anything else.
I think that's fair, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's my point. What was he doing, being in a situation where he hires that taxi driver?
Saving us money.
No, that's not good enough, Paul. I said he's a foreign secretary. Someone at the Foreign Office should have sorted
Can the
something
SAS not bomb in on a Black Hawk or something? Do we have Black Hawks in this country? Surely.
Who knows?
The Foreign Office said, we totally refute these allegations. The fare was paid in full. The Foreign Secretary and his wife are named as victims in this matter, and the driver's been charged with theft. As there's an ongoing legal process, it would be inappropriate to comment further. What do you think? Was David Lammy carrying a gun in a taxi in France? Who knows? If it's true, it could be the biggest political scandal in a while. More papers coming up in just a tick. Let's crack on with the Great British Giveaway, though. Your chance to win is it four-berth? It's a four-berth motorhome. I should know by now. Worth £67,000 and tax-free cash worth £5,000 on top to spend however you like. Here's all the details you need to win.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you, driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome, courtesy of Marquis Leisure. It has plenty of room for your family of four, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. And the best news? You can drive it on your existing driving licence. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. Don't delay. You can't win if you're not in the draw. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck to you. Coming up, we'll be going through the breaking stories of tomorrow with Deputy Editor for the Daily Star on Sunday, John Ward, including this one on the Sunday Telegraph, Ed Miliband, who, of course, is rumoured to be in for the chop at the next cabinet reshuffle, whenever that may be. He is scaling back his deranged plan to turn the countryside into a pylon haven, electricity pylon haven, because, there's fears over net zero. Basically reacting, instead of being proactive, they're reacting to the local election results. Miliband may scale back rollout of net zero pylons. That's next. Back in a tick.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
What can you say about it? Has it lasted time? It was slayed in flame.
Yeah.
Was it about slaying?
No, it was an amalgamation of lots of bands that we knew. The director and the writer, Richard Longcrane and Andrew Birkin, they sent us the script as a script originally, and we said, bands don't behave like this in real life. So we decided to take them to America on tour for a month. So they saw what it was like really behind the scenes of a rock band. And we told them stories of what we knew about other bands, plus ourselves, and they amalgamated that into the film. So every scene in the film is true, not to say...
result?
Fantastic.
Yeah?
Mind you, when it came out in '75, the critics were great to it, but the fans didn't like it. It was too heavy duty for the fans because it wasn't a comedy film like they expected from a happy-go-lucky band like we were.
But you did that on purpose, though.
We did it on purpose.
To make a
we
film
didn't
like
want to
all
make
the
it.
other. Dave Clark 5 had done Catch Us If You Can, Hard Day's
Oh,
Night.
that was all that. Yeah.
They were all
there were lots out
films, weren't
there.
they? Yeah.
We wanted to go totally the other way because nobody expected us to do that.
Yeah.
Of course, the fans thought, whoa, what's
But
this?
were you worried, though, at that time? Because
Of course.
Well, hold on, maybe we've made a mistake here.
Of course. When it come out in America, they had to put subtitles on.
Oh, really?
Because they couldn't understand our accents. But 50 years on now, it's just gained momentum.
Yeah.
It's now become a real classic of the rock movie genre. It's Mark Kermode who gave it the title Citizen Kane of rock movies, which is a great accolade for us. Plus, the movie is great. The movie soundtrack is great as well.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to Ben Leo tonight, only on GB News. More of that David Lammy carrying a gun scandal in France, which he denies, exclusive in just a tick. But first of all, I'm joined by the Deputy Editor for the Daily Star Sunday, John Ward. John, good evening. Thank you for your company. It seems to be a theme running tonight of insane stories. What's on the front of your paper tomorrow? Tell us.
Well, you can always rely on the Daily Star to give you a different version of the news. There's a seagull there looking like a raging bull, raging gull. See what we did there?
Raging Goals is the headline if you're listening on radio. Raging Goals. What kind of goals?
Seagulls.
Yeah.
And we have a survey that's found that they've been attacking more and more for the last 5 years. And this last year was the highest ever. Obviously, the sun comes out in Britain, and so do the seagulls. Do you have this experience? I went out with my kids to Southend recently, and they nearly got attacked by a couple of pterodactyl-sized seagulls.
They are absolute menaces. I live by the sea, and I remember we had a couple. We called them pet seagulls because they used to come and sit on my mum's wall when I was a kid, and we fed them, I don't know, cat food and stuff. They used to share the bowl with the cats outside. But I think, John, in recent years, I agree, they have become absolute menaces. And Paul Richards is here. He lives down the coast somewhere as well. What's going on? What's causing them to be so aggressive?
Well, the expert's saying that they're just going to be cockier. You know, like they obviously know that there's lots of people out in the sunshine having their chips and their ice cream. They get a few, and then they're just getting more cocky as the years go by, and bigger by the looks of them because they are massive. The ones I've been seeing.
Let me ask Paul Richards, do you love or loathe seagulls?
Well, I live in Eastbourne on the seaside, and they are absolute menace. And I think the fact that they are dive bombing people eating their chips or even ice creams as they're walking about, they are. And it's no laughing matter. They are dangerous.
What would you do with them then, Paul?
Well, I would stop them breeding.
I thought you said breathing. How would you stop them breeding?
I would inject them.
Right, with what?
See.
No, you've got to stop feeding them. The problem starts
well, it's the
when
bins,
you
isn't
start
it?
feeding them.
Yeah, but now they're so brave. They really do dive bomb. Oh, near to your eyes.
Oh,
you know,
I had one in
what can you do?
Aldeburgh that flew along the seafront. I literally had the sandwich up to my mouth.
Yeah.
The seagull came along and took it out of my mouth.
But also, they're enormous, aren't they? I mean, they're absolutely colossal. They're not a tiny bird. They're enormous.
One tried to dive bomb me the other day, and I attempted... Well, I shouldn't say.
No, careful. Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on. John, on sort of the Sun, Davina McCall's brain surgeon kept calm by doing what? Of course, Davina McCall, you know, much-loved television presenter, had brain surgery. The surgeon has revealed he kept calm by doing what?
Well, it's Eurovision nights on another channel, so it's...
No, it's not. I'm joking. John. I just don't want people to turn over, that's all.
Oh, yeah, don't turn over. And ABBA, obviously, they won it in 1974. Anyway, Davina McCall's brain surgeon kept calm while listening to ABBA, he claims. during the 5-hour surgery.
Is that allowed?
It must have been. It must have been good. So it's thank you for the music, Davina. But I can't imagine anything worse than listening to ABBA. So I don't.
I don't mind ABBA. Whatever it takes for a surgeon to carry out some pivotal surgery. And finally, John, the Daily Star on Sunday again. What's the beer story? I'm being told beer. What's going on with beer?
Yeah, I'm being a bit indulgent with our paper tonight, but it's another important story for all publicans, especially. Goldsmiths University have done a study that found that if you get served the beer with a smile, it tastes 28% better than if you've got a grumpy barman.
I can believe that. There's nothing. I hate nothing more than going to a restaurant or a bar, wherever, a shop, and the person serving you is just miserable as sin.
It's a bad experience.
Like, what's wrong with saying, "Oh, hello, good morning, welcome," and or thank you? I just hate it. It's my pet peeve. Just smile. Just be happy.
So too chatty is also annoying, then.
Yeah, well, it is. There's a fine balance.
It's a fine line. A smile and hello.
Thank you very much, John. Looking forward to reading the full detail in the Daily Star on Sunday tomorrow, including that seagull story, raging goals. I'm still not going to reveal what I attempted to do to a seagull. I want to keep my job. Only joking. Right, should we go through more of the papers? The Independent. Let's remind ourselves of the headlines for the papers we have so far. Starmer's Brexit reset worth £25 billion a year boost to the UK economy. Economists predict value of deal including food, drink and electrics. And by the way, Paul, just to answer your question, this comes from financial analyst Frontier Economics and a separate assessment by the National Institute for Economic and Social Research. Do you know who they are?
Yeah, well, the second one I do, the first one, I have no idea.
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? That's the big question. Sunday Express, betray Britain at your peril. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has warned Keir Starmer not to betray the 17.4 million Brexit voters with the Surrender Summit, as it's called, on Monday. The Mail on Sunday. Again, Brexit. What Brexit? On the eve of the Surrender Summit, Keir Starmer eyes deal to cosy up to Brussels with hundreds of millions of UK taxpayers' cash. The Sunday Telegraph. Keir Starmer, EU reset is good for borders. The Prime Minister insists the deal benefits the UK, as critics warn it will open the floodgates to European migrants. The Sunday Times, Home Guard to protect the UK against attacks. This is interesting. Maybe we'll talk about this. A Home Guard will be established to protect power plants and airports against attacks from enemy states and terrorists, under plans to put forward in the government's Strategic Defence Review. It will be modelled on the what does that say? On the citizens' militia created in 1940, when Britain faced the prospect of invasion by Nazi Germany during the Second World War. And the Mirror, I still wake up in a panic about Barbara. Scott on Babs, her dementia legacy and new love. That's Scott with his beloved partner Barbara Windsor in 2017. Should we look at the Sunday Times? This Home Guard, I mean, we talked about Just Stop Oil panel at the top of the show saying, you know, if you just tuned in, I revealed that Just Stop Oil have been holding secret meetings and plotting a big comeback, including revealing details on civil disobedience. They're going to target petrol stations, carry out citizens' arrests of so-called climate deniers. So this Home Guard is going to protect power stations and so on from the likes of foreign terrorists and enemy states. But I'd include Just Stop Oil in that, no? Linda?
Maybe.
I'm being serious.
Maybe.
You're laughing.
No. I think you've got a very good point. But there are also other really worrying terrorist groups that we have to be careful about. If you remember when the substation went down in West London, that took Heathrow Airport out of operation for something like 48 hours. And they couldn't get back up again. And then we had more problems in Europe as well. I think people generally speaking, don't realise how large these targets are and how much damage can be done.
The report into that Heathrow substation fire, it's sort of inconclusive. They haven't really said they haven't got to the bottom of it. I mean, is it state-backed terrorism?
It's probably an overload because those data stations consume a huge amount of electricity and energy. But the fact of the matter is, if anyone could get in there and start a fire, like a single terrorist could start a fire, we've simply got to start protecting these
because the damage it does to the economy is huge. It also makes us look weak. And
the chaos.
And the absolute chaos, of course.
So the Labour government stopped funding lots of the overseas aid, right? And they're putting the money into defence. And my argument has always been, A, that's a good thing to do, but B, it can't just go to defence contractors. It should also create jobs. in the military.
Well, these are volunteers.
Well, I just think, but it will still cost money to do this, of course. And I think this is a good example of how you can reallocate some of that cash into something useful, which is protecting our infrastructure, as we've been discussing. But also, it'll create opportunities for people too here in the UK, and particularly in areas, the Red Wall and so on. So
but it's all OK to create a kind of dad's army. I think that's OK. But I honestly think there's a big security situation here. It will take a lot more than volunteers to deal with it.
And and why is there a big security situation?
Because we've got all sorts of threats. We've got the Chinese, we've got Russians, we've got Iranians trying to kill other Iranians. I mean, there are so many security threats.
I mean, Britain is the playground of the world's degenerates and needy, isn't it? Why don't we have a home guard guarding the English Channel?
I think also some of the issue is not necessarily people in the UK coming up with it themselves. It's often, sometimes, Russian backed and spies. I mean, there were obviously some arson attacks in London last year that were state-backed by Russia. So that's, it's outside.
Yeah, there was
infiltrating through
what we're talking about. Yeah, the Skripal poisonings, things like that, things that are state-sponsored murder, the things like the Iranians that were up in court today, the things like the attacks on Keir Starmer's vehicles and his properties and things like that.
We don't know yet if that.
Yeah, we don't.
Hostile state involved in that.
We don't know that yet. So, but we may be able to find out. But what I'm saying is there's a very serious situation here. And I think, God forbid, I hope that I am wrong, but we haven't had a serious attack for a while. And
terrorist attack?
Yeah, serious.
Well, I can tell you plenty have been foiled.
Yeah, no, we know that. That's what I'm saying. We know plans have been foiled. But sooner or later, our intelligence services, they're stretched. We don't know what they're going to miss, what they're going to save us from. I think we're in a very serious situation now. This doesn't surprise me at all.
It says here in the Sunday Times, just to add a bit of colour. And by the way, the reason I hold these papers so close to my eyes, and lots of you email me, and somebody even, believe this, sent me what do they call the magnifying glasses to enlarge text.
Yeah.
He said, Ben, I see you every week struggling to read the papers. It's not because my eyes are bad. I've had my eyes lasered. It's because the print, as the panel will contest, is very small. Anyway, just to let you know while I hold it so close. It says here in the Sunday Times, the force would be made up of several thousand volunteers who would safeguard assets such as nuclear power plants, telecommunication sites and the coastal hubs where internet cables connecting Britain to the rest of the world come on to land. The Home Guard plan is a central part of the review, which focuses heavily on homeland security, national resilience and so on and so on.
How are you going to find these volunteers willing to do that, though, if they're not getting paid?
I mean, of course they will. People volunteer for all kinds. We are a nation of volunteers, aren't we? People volunteer in charity shops.
And then on benefits, or they also have a full-time job. You can't have a full-time job and volunteer to the best of your ability with this sort of thing.
And at the moment, we're having trouble getting people into paid employment.
Exactly.
So how are we going to get this massive volunteer force?
And by the way, they're not doing it on their own. They will be alongside the military and the police. So they're not going to be left all on their own, are they? No,
obviously not all of them on their own. But still, you probably would hope that most of them are just the military. As you were suggesting earlier, that they should be, paid
Maybe
workers.
We should, yeah.
I think that's good. I think that would be
They should unionise and get a national minimum wage.
And then strike.
Right, coming up, more papers and the big weekend fails. And also, why do you reckon this guy took a dive into the sea when stopped by Border Force? Isn't it nice to see Border Force stopping small boats? But I'll tell you in just a sec, not the kind you're thinking of. This is Ben Leo Tonight, only on GB News.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
After some very heavy downpours recently, it's turning drier over the central Mediterranean. We are going to see some heavy showers developing into next week over the Pyrenees and southern France. Turning a bit cloudier over the Algarve as this zone of rain moves in later on Sunday, but that rain will be fizzling out as it does so. The heavy showers easing off over Italy and parts of Croatia. Plenty of fine and sunny weather over the Greek islands and much of southern Turkey. We will see those heavy downpours developing, though, in Nice by Monday and Tuesday.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, some of that low cloud has been stubborn to clear today, but we'll see the return of low cloud from the North Sea as we go overnight, followed by sunny spells into Sunday. So taking a look at the bigger picture, we're still under the influence of this area of high pressure, drawing in though northeasterly winds. So a lot of low cloud coming in from the North Sea, and this will eventually push its way further inland across much of central parts of England down towards the south and east. Further out towards the west, that's where we'll hold on to the clearest skies, a touch of frost in places, but also some mist and fog to start Sunday morning. So as we start Sunday morning then, a bit of a gloomy picture out there, especially across eastern areas and also across northern parts of Scotland. Out towards the west though, a fine and bright start, plenty of sunshine. Similar picture across Northern Ireland, many places waking up to plenty of blue sky, but always holding on to this low cloud across northeastern England, East Midlands, down towards the south and east. And it could be quite slow to clear, especially across parts of the East Midlands and towards the southeast as we go through the morning and into the afternoon. But for most of us, it should break up. We should see a good deal of sunshine, always cooler along that eastern coast, but further out towards the west, it will be feeling pleasantly warm, highs of 21, 22, possibly 23 degrees. But with this onshore flow, always feeling cooler across the north and east. A bit of a change as we go through Monday. Any low cloud will eventually lift and break, but we'll see the return of some showers, especially across northern areas, but the detail is still quite uncertain at this stage. And then as we look through the week, many of us hold on to a good deal of sunshine, but again, the chance of some showers that could be on the heavy side and perhaps thundery.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is our country, and we think it's amazing. From high tea to the high street, we love it all. Even the rain, we like that too. There's nowhere else we'd rather be. That's why we're here to be the fearless champion of Britain, its voices and its values. Because we are GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo tonight. Now, we have already discussed this story on the front page on The Sun on Sunday tomorrow. David Lammy, let's just quickly remind ourselves if you've just tuned in. He's been accused in this row with the French taxi driver of carrying a gun in that row. The David Lammy taxi fare rail driver told prosecutors he thought the Foreign Secretary was carrying a firearm. That's according to bombshell papers obtained by The Sun on Sunday, out tomorrow. David Lammy, of course, allies, friends and, of course, the Foreign Office have all denied it. And I don't know. We don't know for sure, but I'd say the taxi driver is talking absolute nonsense. But we don't know. The story rolls on, though. Should we look at the front page of The Telegraph as well? Starmer, EU reset good for borders, but the story we'll discuss in just a second. Ed Miliband may have to scale back a rollout of net zero pylons that he dreamt of erecting all across the country. And the Sunday Times, where are we? Down the bottom here. This is a really good story on the bottom of the Sunday Times. So it's the Sunday Times Rich List, which is published, I think it's tomorrow. This year contains 156 billionaires, 21 fewer than the peak in 2022 and 9 fewer than last year. I understand, Ellie Wheatley from Guido Fawkes tells me. Ellie, what is it? It's the biggest drop?
Yeah, so it's the UK's seen the biggest drop in billionaires in the UK since records began. So the Sunday Times Rich List has been going for 37 years, and in history they've never seen such a big drop. And also, let's remember, 11,000 millionaires fled the UK last year, and these billionaires are blaming Rachel Reeves's non-dom tax scrapping and just increases in tax in general as well. And we've seen jobs being cut at the fastest rate because of the NICS hike and all of that sort of thing. So what happens when you raise taxes too much? You end up getting zero because the rich pack their bags, and that's exactly what we've seen here.
Because as Theresa May pointed out, global citizens are the citizens of nowhere. They've all got several passports. They pick up the right passport, they move countries, and that tax revenue just leaves these shores, and that ultimately is a problem. I mean, even I know at least two probably billionaires who have already gone. Wow. Two, I personally know. And I don't know many billionaires.
Paul, let me read you the charge sheet here from the Sunday Times. Leading businessmen are warning Rachel Reeves her tax rises risk killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. The Chancellor's plans to raise capital gains and inheritance tax next year are expected to drive more wealth creators out of the country, accelerating an exodus triggered by the abolition of non-dom status last month.
They also know that...
How do you plead?
Well, your challenge to me just then over the
How do you plead,
the
sir?
economics was who funds them, you asked. Well, who funds these people? These are very, very rich people who could live anywhere, choose to live somewhere else. Did you say there's only 9 fewer? Is that the numbers that come
billionaires?
Out? Yeah, 9 fewer billionaires.
That's quite a lot. It's quite a lot of money, 9 billionaires.
9 is not very many billionaires, I would argue. And also, Ellie, I think that 11,000 figure has been debunked now, so I think that's not. I think that's old
has
news.
It now?
Yeah, but
I believe so.
Can I say one thing?
It wasn't that many. I don't.
There's
believe.
no money tree at the end of the garden. At the end of the day, we rely on people earning a stack load of money so that we can get revenue into the exchequer.
Well, of course, but
Margaret Thatcher said, socialism is fine until you run out of other people's money.
Yeah.
It says here, from people who know best, the billionaires themselves, the wealth creators, Tom Langley, who is 70, who forged a £1.7 billion industrial group from his family's bankrupt mining equipment business, he's told the Sunday Times, and he's criticised the Rachel Reeves plan for a 20% tax when stakes in family companies worth more than £1 million are passed to the next generation. He said Rachel Reeves is going to destroy a huge swathe of family businesses, he said, a sector that employs around 14 million of the working population and one of the largest providers of employment, prosperity and generators of tax revenues the country's ever had. I mean, he's saying he's ill-informed, this billionaire?
Well, I think he's special pleading because he wants to keep his billions. But the people who make the wealth of this country, the people who go out and do a day's work, not these people earning money off their capital.
No, wealth creators are the people that build businesses.
How are they creating wealth? They make their money from assets. They're not working hard for their money.
Are you joking?
Wealth creators build businesses. People who work, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Thousands of people.
How do you think?
I think most people in this country actually work for small businesses, don't they? They are people struggling under.
This is small.
And what do you think they think?
No, they're not. We're talking about billionaires.
OK, but the billionaire was talking about
they don't create wealth for the rest of us.
Changes on family-run businesses worth over £1 million.
Even small businesses create wealth.
Yeah.
You have to have wealth creation in order to have a vibrant jobs market.
I'm saying 9 billionaires leaving is not going to cause us any trouble at all.
Understand, but also what he's talking. Well, I still think the amount of tax that they pay is
well, probably not much, to be honest. They're probably
they're
probably headquartered all over the world, aren't they?
Non-dom tax
but even if it's not 9 billion,
they are very good at hiding their money, aren't they?
Scrapping the non-dom tax is going to cost the Treasury 12 billion. That's been some.
You just can't. You cannot compromise wealth creators in this way. It's impossible.
Paul,
it's so logical.
I can't believe you just shrug off 9 billionaires leaving the country. Even if they're not paying the full amount of tax that they should, because, I don't know, legal avenues, they're still paying more than you, me and everyone else put together.
Well, actually, it's a proportion. They're not. We're all paying more than they are.
Let's move on. We've been smashing the small boats. No, not those ones. Border Force has been tackling drug dealers. Take a look at this clip released by the National Crime Agency today.
Stand down, you've been warned.
So there was two men, I think they were Dutch. They were trying to import, I think it was millions of pounds worth of cocaine into Britain. That was off the coast of Suffolk last year. I think it was July last year. Anyway, Border Force intercepted them, probably had intelligence. And here's the guy jumping into the water, trying to get away. The other guy who's driving or sailing the rib, however you describe it, he then also jumped into the water nearer the sands and tried to run away. They were both sentenced to, I think, nearly 20 years in prison.
Good.
Nice to see Border Force, Paul, smashing some boats.
There you go. It can be done.
Not the boats we want, really, though. I mean, I guess.
Well, we did want that.
Well,
I suppose we did, but
it's a fair cop, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, well done, Border Force, but we're at the English Channel. Hey. Stunned into silence, Paul.
I am, as ever.
OK, back in just a tick with more clips from my panel's big weekend fails. And, yeah, let's remind ourselves again of that David Lammy story. Apparently, I love it. Apparently carrying a gun in the row. Coming up in the Mail on Sunday, Gavin and Stacey star James Corden is to run as London Mayor. Yes, you heard that right. James Corden, everyone's favourite comedian, is to run as London Mayor. Plus, this weekend's failed. Back in just a tick.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Health programme that turns back the clock. Promethean Longevity is a wellness company with a difference. Using a combination of science and fitness, it aims to reduce people's biological age.
We take their initial tests and work out their biological age, and we take a history of their exercise, what they're eating, and then we make a bespoke programme that's kind of personalised to each participant, and that will guide them through 6 weeks of diet. Everything that they eat will be planned, their exercise is planned. We can help with supplements, anti-aging protocols for things like sleep, skincare, kind of all aspects of ageing, really.
It comes as life expectancy in Yorkshire is one of the lowest in the country, according to the ONS.
Well, a man born in Yorkshire can expect to live almost a decade. Well, in certain parts of Yorkshire, let's be more specific, can expect to live a decade less than someone born in certain parts of the south. That's pretty significant. People in Yorkshire can expect to be in poor health for the last 20 years of their life. And England as a whole, I mean, for one of the richest nations in the world, we lag behind Europe in terms of life expectancy and health expectancy, which is really the crucial thing to us, really. It's not about how many years you live. It's about living those years with some kind of quality of life.
62-year-old Debbie Shaw reduced her biological age by 17 years on Promethean Longevity's 6-week programme.
I lost 1.5 stone on their diet, and that's something that I just kind of accepted was older age. I'm a menopausal woman and we put weight on. I started off at 56 and I ended up at 39. And I feel 39 again.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Ben Leo tonight. We're still talking about the papers, of course. We're arguing about millions and billions. Right, the front page of the Daily Mail. Just as a recap, if you're not taking LSD tonight, David Lammy's been accused of carrying a gun in France. And in the Daily Mail, James Corden of Gavin and Stacey fame is apparently running for London Mayor. Ellie Wheatley, what's your take on this?
I'm totally shocked. I thought we weren't having him back.
I know.
He's been in the US for a while now. For a long time, and actually the Brits started to sort of turn on him because of his various I think he was quite woke and quite annoying on his show.
Prince Harry's.
Friend of Prince Harry. Oh, never a good one with some of the Brits here. So I don't think anyone would actually vote for him. I mean, listen, I enjoyed Gavin and Stacey. I thought it's a good show, but...
Not really seen it. Ellie, who are the runners and riders for the London Mayor race?
Oh, God, well, listen, it's in a few years' time, right? So we don't know yet, but...
Any whispers?
Any whispers? Who knows? I mean, I personally think James Cleverly would be quite good for the Tories. I think he hasn't ruled it out. He was asked maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and he hasn't ruled that out. But he also didn't rule out another Tory leadership pit either.
And I think there would be some poetic justice in that for James Cleverly as well. That would be quite a neat situation.
I think he's a nice guy. He's quite charismatic. He would appeal to
serious
a lot
player.
of Listen, I have no idea. I don't know if the Tories have even thought about selecting a mayoral candidate yet. I think they're trying to, stabilise Kemi's position as Lotto. So I don't know.
But the two things run in parallel, don't they? You can concentrate on sustaining your leader, but you've got to be thinking by now about candidates.
I don't know. I think CCHQ. I mean, they've obviously had a lot of sackings recently, which has been covering quite a lot. So I think there's not a huge amount of resources to be focusing on who exactly would the candidate be. They're probably thinking, but I think a lot of former Tory bigwigs might be going, maybe it's my time.
And in the run of play, it's a Labour government, it'll be mid-term, you would think the Tories would be in quite a good shout to win the mayoralty of London. So who they choose as their candidate might well be running the city.
They've got a very strong personality if they...
And they might be up against the gun-toting David Lammy as well, so who knows?
Yeah, there we go. A couple of bombshells tonight. David Lammy accused of carrying a firearm, a gun, and James Corden running for London Mayor. Time now for our big weekend fails. Ellie, this is yours. Let's take a look.
Do you not think, Emily, there's an issue with Pakistani Muslims raping working-class white underage girls? Do you not think there's an issue there?
I think there is an appalling issue with grooming when it hits any community and any age. We only ever hear you talk about Pakistani perpetrators.
Are you telling me there's no issue?
I'm telling you that you are focusing on Pakistani grooming gangs because probably you're racist and you don't believe that there are white perpetrators of the same crime. Can you deny that?
Oh, who'd have thought Emily Maitlis used to work at the BBC? Who could have guessed? I don't know, not me. Paul, this is your one, I think. Is it Paul's? Yeah, let's have a quick look.
It is good to be back in Wales. Not just because I have so many friends here, or because I always get a warm welcome, but actually not just because it's one of the most beautiful parts of the country. It's a wonderful day out there, and it's been fantastic just meeting so many people, MSPs, businesses.
Paul, you choose Kemi Badenoch every week on this show.
Well, do you know why? Because every week she makes a stupid gaffe like this, and she's saying she's met MSPs. Well, you may have missed it, but she's in Wales. They don't have MSPs in Wales. They're in Scotland.
OK.
So she's getting mixed up yet again.
All right, let's look at Linda's.
She said it was a slip of the...
This Prime Minister once spoke of compassion and dignity for migrants and for defending free movement. Now he talks of islands of strangers and taking back control. Is there any belief he holds which survives a week in Downing Street?
Yes, the belief that she talks rubbish.
I didn't like that from Keir Starmer. I thought he was a bit rude. A bit rude and off towards a woman.
Yeah, of course it was. I can feel Paul shaking his head, even though I've got my eyes shut.
I have to say, I thought it was quite, a witty comeback.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone complains he's wooden and he can't think on his feet.
And I don't think leaders do that. They simply don't do that. They do not react that way.
Rude question.
You just don't do it.
Churchill used to do it all the time.
No, he shouldn't have done it. Leaders should not do it. No leader. CEOs, leaders of political parties, they should absolutely learn some manners.
He could have given a list of examples that he had, beliefs that he has actually held on to, but obviously couldn't think of one.
TV hosts can do it. Paul, you're talking rubbish, I'm afraid.
I thought he was Churchillian. Churchill was great for his quips against his opponents.
No,
dare I say Trumpian even,
I've got a name for the London mayoral candidate.
All right. For the London mayoral candidate, who?
Just to go back a tad, Ant Middleton.
Oh, for reform, yes. Ant Middleton, SAS hero,
Yep.
Who Dares Wins hero.
Yep.
Yes, he may be running for reform. I think he is running for reform. Ellie, your weekend fail of Emily Maitlis. I mean, she is the worst of the worst.
She's always coming out with these things. She's always doing sort of things like this. But
I thought you were Josh.
Really
Josh.
unfair to firstly accuse Rupert Lowe of being racist, profiteering from the inquiry that he's raising money for, which he sort of basically goes on to do, and accuses him of finding it sort of funny to talk about this sort of subject. And again, it's just another example of her and quite a few interviewers making it all about them.
That's right.
And their questions and how great, and look at me catching you out. And actually, Rupert Lowe here is just talking about a really serious and heartbreaking scandal. He's not on there to talk about himself. He's here to talk about this
what
issue.
we as the viewer or the listener want is what we want is information.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Maitlis was a disgrace. And also, she said, you're launching your own inquiry. And then later, 10 seconds later, she said, I didn't ask you about an inquiry. You know, these former BBC types have finally liberated themselves from having to hide their woke far-left agendas. Not that they did very well in the first place. Anyway, on standby is Leo Kirst with headliners. Leo, what's on the show tonight?
We've got Lewis Schaefer and Nick the Big Dog Dixon on the panel, so it's going to be a funny one, and we're going to be talking about loads of stuff. Donald Trump said the N-word. It's not as it sounds. It's actually a very funny clip. We're going to have that clip later. Also, we're going to be talking about Brexit being rolled back, and apparently we're going to get a lot more migration. It's funny how politicians say one thing and do another thing.
Yeah, I think that's the remit for politicians, isn't it? Thank you, viewers, for your company tonight. Thank you, panel, Linda, Paul, Ellie, and I'll be back tomorrow from 9 p.m. Did or didn't David Lammy carry a gun? I don't think he did. Back tomorrow night. Enjoy.
Good evening and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, some of that low cloud has been stubborn to clear today, but we'll see the return of low cloud from the North Sea as we go overnight, followed by sunny spells into Sunday. So taking a look at the bigger picture, we're still under the influence of this area of high pressure, drawing in though northeasterly winds. So a lot of low cloud coming in from the North Sea, and this will eventually push its way further inland across much of central parts of England down towards the south and east. Further out towards the west, that's where we'll hold on to the clearest skies, a touch of frost in places, but also some mist and fog to start Sunday morning. So as we start Sunday morning then, a bit of a gloomy picture out there, especially across eastern areas and also across northern parts of Scotland. Out towards the west though, a fine and bright start, plenty of sunshine. Similar picture across Northern Ireland, many places waking up to plenty of blue sky, but always holding on to this low cloud across northeastern England, East Midlands, down towards the south and east. And it could be quite slow to clear, especially across parts of the East Midlands and towards the southeast as we go through the morning and into the afternoon. But for most of us, it should break up. We should see a good deal of sunshine, always cooler along that eastern coast, but further out towards the west, it will be feeling pleasantly warm, highs of 21, 22, possibly 23 degrees. But with this onshore flow, always feeling cooler across the north and east. A bit of a change as we go through Monday. Any low cloud will eventually lift and break, but we'll see the return of some showers, especially across northern areas, but the detail is still quite uncertain at this stage. And then as we look through the week, many of us hold on to a good deal of sunshine, but again, the chance of some showers that could be on the heavy side and perhaps thundery.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Someone is going to win the biggest prize package to date, and that someone could be you, driving away in this Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It has plenty of room for your family of four, comes complete with kitchen, bathroom and all the space you'll need for life on the road. Plus, we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win the lot, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.